A huge summer awaits for West Ham. Hello everybody and welcome back to the West Ham Network. This is Anton bringing you a little bit of an opinion piece, but also asking for your interactions during this particular show, because rumours are rife saying that West Ham are going to go through the massive transition this summer. We're going to be seeing upwards of 11 players heading out the door and a massive rotation of players coming in again this summer. Now, you'd be naive to think that that wouldn't have happened this summer, because we did expect that big transition to happen last summer, but we are also expecting that transition to happen this summer. And it got me thinking about, who would I sell at West Ham? Who would I be happy to see leave? Who would I not be happy to see leave? How much money could we generate for some of these players? We're going to see players you don't want to leave the club. We're going to see players you want to leave the club. Everyone's going to have a difference of opinion. And I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll choose some of the kind of topical players, the players that we know that potentially are leaving the club or are rumoured to be leaving the club, and whether or not you would want them to go. And a lot of these players I've chosen based upon my opinion. I've put some players in there that I think you may think, why are you putting them in there? And I've not chosen some players for the reason that I don't want to see them go. And the example of that is Lucas Paquetá, for example. I've not brought an image of him up, and I'm not going to use him as an example because we don't really know what's going to happen with him depending the outcome of this court case, which is going to be delayed. The ridiculous FA delaying this court case a bit further ahead. But I thought I'll bring them up and I'll ask you to engage. So if you are watching, go into the comments and let me know your thoughts on all the players that I do bring up on the screen for you. So the first one I want to quickly talk to you about is Konstantinos Mavropanos. I've put exit. The reason I've put exit is, listen, I'm all for giving players time and the chance to be able to find their form at the club, and I really don't think he has. I will hold my hands up and I'll tell you that I wasn't Ogbona's biggest fan when he first came to the club, but let me correct myself with that. I wasn't his biggest fan, but I think I was rightly so. I don't think he performed well the last season, Upton Park the season when he came in before that, and I always felt like Winston Reid was always controlling him in games, but he, like a fine Italian wine, he blossomed into a very, very decent West Ham centre-back. And therefore, I think we were right to keep him in the end. Whereas Mavropanos, just for me, is the bomb scare and a concern in the back defence. And right now, while he has some value to his name, years on his contract at West Ham, I think West Ham need to move him on and look at other targets. I'll come on to another player that we could bring in that we all know who is at West Ham officially, just as soon as we get to that point. So, yes, I think what we need to do is move him on, bring in some much needed funds. I'm not sure what the value, what they kind of hold him at just now. If I go by, let's have a look here what Transfer Market says on Konstantinos Mavropanos. I'm going to make a guess about £15 million. Well, they're saying €17 million. There you go. So I'll say about £15 million. And I think I'd be happily take that because that adds into the budget for what Graham Potter has to do. So for Konstantinos Mavropanos, what would you do? Would you see him go, and for how much would you be happy to move him on for? The next player, now I'm a bit disappointed that I'm even saying this, to be honest with you, but Edson Alvarez, I think he came in with such high hopes, especially on the back of the coming in as the player that had to replace Declan Rice, you could say. But I think there has been many issues in his game, and I think he's taken time to adjust to the Premier League and maybe taken time to adjust to the West Ham style of play. I do think, to a certain extent, Potter has some respect for the player. I think he's got respect for all of his players, but in terms of being the starting 11, I don't think he is what we need at West Ham anymore. And while he holds some value, I would consider sending him on his way. There are rife rumours saying that clubs all over the place are very interested in him. A mixture of clubs in England and a mixture of clubs in Europe. I prefer players to go away who come to the Premier League at West Ham and then move on into Europe and not stay and then rub salt into the wounds when they play really well for the clubs that they sign for. I mean, Transfer Market has him at €30 million. I'd expect West Ham, if we were to move him on, for some more, hopefully hopefully try and get anywhere close to what we paid for him. And if you can sell him for close to, say, 40 million quid, and you sell him and Mavropanos, bang, you've got 55 million quid in your pocket to go and spend on a big summer transition. So if you are watching right now, put in the comments and let me know your thoughts on Edson Alvarez. Would you like to see him go? And if you would, how much would you be willing to sell him for? The next player could be controversial to many West Ham fans. I am his biggest fan. It's probably the most ridiculous thing I'm going to say, because I know there is a player there, but the thing that really pains me is I don't think he wants to be here. I don't think he's doing it disrespectfully. He's just not performing on the park. West Ham are hopeful that we're going to get upwards of £80 million, but if the form keeps continuing, I don't know how we're going to get that. And if he does go, I can see a big offer coming in from Saudi Arabia, no matter if Premier League clubs come in from or not. You know, he's got no ties to the Premier League, no ties to England, so we could go and get some generational wealth, and I see him moving into Saudi Arabia, and that's probably where we're going to get the best amount of money for him. But his form has been a monumental fall-off, and I really think that we need to probably bite the bullet here and send him on his way, and West Ham rebuild again in certain areas. But it pains me because I know there's a player there. I know there's a world class player there. Heads dropped all over the place, and I can't comprehend why and what's gone wrong so much with Kudus. But if we can somehow generate 80 million quid for him, between him and Alvarez and Dinos, bang, you're well over £100 million in the kitty to spend some money. And I don't want Freddie to watch this, my 9-year-old son, because if he watches me say sell Kudus, he'll be very unhappy, because he's one of his favourite players, and he's also one of my favourite players. But again, if you don't want to be here, you're not performing, you can't keep favourite players in the team for the sake of keeping them there, then we'll have to wait and see what happens. But if you are watching Kudus, what would you do? Keep or sell, and for how much? Let me know in the comments. The next player I want to talk to you about is this man, Maxwel Cornet. This is a quick one, on loan to Genoa, doing quite well. Hopefully there's a deal in place that will take him away from the club. I don't think if we can generate any form of finances for him, then so be it. If not, he will come off of the wages. So if you are watching, what would you do with Max Cornet? I feel sorry for him, though. Genuinely, I do feel sorry for him. His life at West Ham at the start never went the way he did. You know, if that goal had gone in against Chelsea and had counted, I think that could have really lifted him. And he's one of those players that probably plays on confidence as well. So I think that would have really driven his career in the trajectory going that way rather than the trajectory going down the way. Then that kind of crazy injury that he had, his loan spell at Southampton didn't go wonderfully well, and then obviously he's now in Italy and he's doing reasonably well out there as well. So we'll see what happens with him. But let me know in the comments what you think of Max Cornet. Next up, Rodriguez. I think we expect him to go out the door. You know, bringing him in on a free. And then turn it, you know, he's like a property investor. You flip houses, and this could be a flipping the player. And I'm not being disrespectful to Rodriguez in any way whatsoever, and it sounds like I am, but he's just not West Ham material. And I think we had high hopes for a player coming in that would have worked under the Lopetegui system. He's not working under the Potter system, so we need to sell and make something back on the asset that cost us nothing at the start. And I think that would be a good move. So if you are watching, and you think we should sell Rodriguez or get rid of him, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Next up for discussion, out of contract Danny Ings. We'll see him head out the door, freeing up some money, unless Potter wants to offer him another contract, or a club comes in now and signs him, which they can't. We'll be waving goodbye to Danny Ings as well. So that's another player heading out the door. A player that's on loan at West Ham right now, Evan Ferguson. He's not hit the ground running. This is an interesting one, because we all know there is a player there. We all know, because we've seen his form when he was really on form with Brighton. He's had an injury and he's taken time to build into this system and into this play, and he's not fully fit yet, and he's not getting regular game time. Now, for Brighton, they have an asset that they may look to move on, and if they want to move on, they're not going to get the money that they want for him. So I could see West Ham looking at just making a little cheeky offer, and trying to bring him in on the cheap. And he's a young Premier League proven goal scorer that West Ham could try and nurture into something. Now, if this is just a loan and there's no offer to be made, then he has to leave, and we're not going to pay over the odds. We cannot pay over the odds for someone like Evan Ferguson, but it's one of those players that if you can get for a good deal, it's worth the risk, in my opinion. But let me know your thoughts. Would you even consider making an offer? And if you were, what would that offer be? Let me know in the comments. Carlos Soler, player that I had many high hopes for, and I still kind of technically do, but I see West Ham sending him back for him to make a move elsewhere. He is currently on loan at West Ham. I don't think there was an agreement in place for us to sign him, but I do think there is a decent player there, but when West Ham need the rebuild, I think we need fresh faces and fresh blood and young blood as well to come in there. And I think he's been a good professional, and I thank him for his time at West Ham and a couple of very good goals he scored for us a few months ago. But I think it's time for him to head out the door this summer, and move on and see what we can do. Again, we're not going to generate any form of income from him, but we'll free up some much needed funds that we need in the wages. Next up, Andy Irving. People will say it's harsh. I thought he's been looked all right, but I don't think all right cuts it anymore. And I think, well, we have an asset that can probably generate something towards a transfer budget. Then if you can get £2 to £5 million for him, then I think it's time for him to head out the door. Harsh, but true. I think we have to really bring in the fresh blood at this club, and this is part of that exit plan and transitional plan at West Ham. Let me know about Andy Irving. What would you do with regards to him? Emerson Palmieri, for me, he has to move on. Scarles' most recent progression into the first team, and West Ham will be probably looking at that department anyway, and I think we could probably generate anything between 8, 9, 10 million, maybe a little bit more. I don't know if I'm undervaluing him ever so slightly considering what he's achieved in his career, but I really like him. I really do like him. He may come as this is another interesting thing. He may come as a bit of a package. I've always felt like Emerson and Paqueta are a little bit of a package because they're very close. He's multilingual. He speaks all the languages, and him and Paqueta are really close. And if Paqueta doesn't get found guilty and stays with West Ham, there could be an element of, well, why would you get rid of someone like Emerson? But if I'm thinking of pure value for money and bringing income into the club, then I think Emerson could be another option of bringing £10 million plus in for transfer kitty and in a position that probably we really do need to look at. So let me know your comments. I've put in here Cresswell, obviously contract up in the summer. What do you do? And there's part of me thinking maybe you just give him another year to stay at the club and to be there and be around the players that are potentially going to be coming in. He's been there for many a year, but who knows what happens in that department. Next up is Kurt Zouma. We all know he's out on loan and his contract's up in the summer, so we'll be saying goodbye to him as well and freeing up some much needed funds at West Ham. The last player to exit, in my opinion, Vladimir Coufal, contract up, negotiations not really going down well. He's not featuring much at all. There's no way he's going to knock Wan-Bissaka off, and also with the style of play and system that Graham Potter plays, then I don't see how he fits in, and I think we need to look at other options. But Wan-Bissaka has been one of the summer signing, the hot summer signing, and yeah, we need to look at there. So let me know your thoughts as well. And last but not least, I thought I'll bring someone in who I'm going to welcome back, and the welcoming player back is Naif Aguerd, because I believe, and controversially, in the West Ham Network chat, it's a very mixed bunch of opinions in there. I am all for bringing Aguerd back under a Potter. Not having an Aguerd here with Lopetegui, not having an Aguerd here with Moyes, but an Aguerd here with a Potter who can play that back three, centre-back, him, Keelman and Todibo, and he's got pace, and he's doing well right now, and he's proven he can play in a non-low block side, and I think that's what we could do. He could feel like he could really be a new signing for us. And if not, we could generate a lot of money as an asset. But I would really, really, really like Potter to convince him to come back to this club and give it another year under his regime and system. But let me know your thoughts on all of the players I've mentioned there. With all those players that I have mentioned, I could see quite a lot of money incoming. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 players potentially heading out the door between fees and loan spells and contracts expiring, and one player coming back. And that's a lot of money West Ham have generated from a big, huge summer transition If you are watching, put your comments in. Let me know your thoughts. We'll go more in depth as the summer kicks in and as we start to predict what is going to happen with players moving in and out of the club. If you're new around here, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, please leave a comment, and of course, come on you Irons!